Hello everybody, Neil here from the Four Corners, and welcome to a video talking about something that's been in my mind for quite a while now, and with recent events in Ninjago, I decided it's finally time to talk about it. So Ninjago soundtracks are a huge part of the show's success, and sometimes they're so good that they can define a whole season. You can just listen to one of those soundtracks, and you'll immediately think of the season that they're trying to represent. And sometimes there's occasions where a soundtrack doesn't just define a season, but it can actually define a ninja by itself. So Nia's soundtrack would go something like this. And for Cole we get this one. Then for Zane, we probably have the most iconic and saddest one, and that goes like this. So at this point we get the basic idea. It's just like this for Lloyd and Master Wu, and Kai, arguably he doesn't really have a soundtrack yet unless you count that season 7 one. I kind of see that as a meeting up with parents slash Kai and Nia soundtrack, not something that should be defining Kai, since Nia also tends to use that when she powers up, so it looks like Kai and Nia share that one, but I guess we could call that Kai's soundtrack. Now after all those ninja soundtracks, I think we're missing one important ninja here, and it's Jay's. Jay doesn't really have a proper soundtrack yet. He does have Superstar Rockin' Jay, and that's my intro music and everything. I love that soundtrack. And he also has the famous Jay in the Elevator soundtrack, which I guess isn't really his. He just happened to be in the elevator, so people call it the Jay in the Elevator soundtrack. So those are both his, but both of those are just rehashes of the original Ninjago soundtrack, just changed with the beat a little bit. He doesn't really have something of his own, and it was really apparent in Seabound when he went to sacrifice himself. At that time you could really hear Zane's soundtrack, and it was a bit odd because it just sounded like Jay was borrowing Zane's soundtrack so that things would be a little sad. Nothing wrong with that or anything, it's just that it would be nice if Jay got something of his own. Season 12, Prime Empire, ideally would have been the season he would have gotten his own soundtrack, because when Ninja gets his own focus season, it usually means they get a soundtrack. Cole got his Spinjitzu Burst soundtrack in Season 13, and Nia's getting a lot more in Seabound, which is coming out as we speak. But Prime Empire had more focus on characters like Okino and Racer 7, and a lot more instead of Jay, so Jay only ended up popping up in the end. There was really not that much focus to him, even though it was branded as a Jay season. Same goes for Skybound. There was a lot of Jay moments there, but again, it was more about Nia and Jay, and not really about JJ. I really want a season in the future where Jay has to tap into his powers and go super lightning. Now that would be pretty cool, and that type of season has definitely been a long time in waiting. So my best bet is that we will get a Jay soundtrack when we get a season like that, or hopefully when Seabound airs with more episodes, maybe there's a Jay moment where he actually gets a soundtrack. Now that would be pretty cool to see if Jay actually got a soundtrack very recently. However, that is all for this video, talking about how one of the most popular ninjas, and one of my favorite ninjas, doesn't have his own soundtrack while every other ninja does, even Master Wu. Comment down below if you think some soundtracks could represent Jay that already exist. I think things like Superstar Rockin' Jay definitely do, but for emotional sequences they don't work. Thank you for watching a soundtrack. That's an opinions video, and as usual, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!